Okay, and we are live, Rusty.
Hello.
Wait, I'm gonna expand. Should we keep it like this or should we keep it like this? Anyway, doesn't matter. It's Tuesday and it's the Tuesday talk with iThrive. Today it's Rusty and me, and we're going to talk about a very, very important topic, which is EMFs or electromagnetic frequencies. I'm going to be asking a lot of basic noob level questions, and Rusty is our in house expert on EMFs. I've heard he sleeps with the circuit breaker off in his house. We'll find out more on why he does that. I wonder how you sleep without a fan or an AC on. But anyway, getting started, Rusty. So, what are EMFs?
All right. Electromagnetic waves or electromagnetic frequency, it has a lot of names. It was first told by this great scientist in 1800s. He first discovered these electromagnetic waves. And it's got a lot of names, okay? People keep saying, different names: electromagnetic fields, electromagnetic waves, electromagnetic radiation, light. See, all of these things are the same thing. It's invisible wave of electric and magnetic fields. They club together, they are called electromagnetic fields. Okay. And they are
Okay.
everywhere. Yeah.
All right. And then, like, the next obvious question which I want to ask is okay, if these are electromagnetic fields and or if they're all over the place, why are you and I even doing a live about them, right? What's the point of this?
Yeah, see, it's extremely important because the world we are living in right now, it's getting constantly, it's constantly being bombarded with the EMF. Actually, if you
Hmm.
look at the picture in the last 100 years, the
Hmm.
amount of man-made EMF we have put out in the environment, in the on the earth we are living on, it is actually 10 to the power 18. That's billion into billion times. So that
Okay.
much EMF we have put out, the man-made EMF we have put out in the world right now. Yeah, so it is extremely important to talk about it because I believe that we are, there are a lot of problems which are caused by these electromagnetic fields, the one made by the man. These are called non-native electromagnetic fields.
So that's what you say, the NNEMF, right?
Yes,
Non-native electromagnetic fields.
yes,
And
exactly.
which ones would be these? Like a list of these non-native electromagnetic fields. Which are they?
Sure, for this for you to understand this, I mean for the audience to understand, you have to understand it's a spectrum, okay? On the left hand side, the waves are bigger in size, okay? So left side starts with the radio frequencies, and then we keep going towards the right, the microwave, which is a part of the radio frequency band. And then as you keep going towards the right, you have the waves are getting smaller in wavelength and the frequency is getting higher. If the
Hmm.
frequency is getting higher, that means there's more energy to them. Okay.
Hmm.
So as we move towards the right, after the microwave, we have the infrared
Hmm.
and the visible light. And after that, you have UV, X-ray, gamma rays. Okay.
Hmm.
So from the the main source of the electromagnetic radiation was supposed to be the sun. Okay, we get the infrared, the visible, and the UV from the sun. Apart from that, the other ones we do get from the sun, but it's in very minute quantities. It does not even matter. The majority part is the IR, UV, and the visible. Okay, so apart from that, the humans have figured out ways to, send data wirelessly
Hmm.
through these invisible waves, and majority we use these RF waves, radio frequency and microwave.
Hmm.
So yeah, these are the non-native ones which are extremely important, um, which we need to talk about: the radio frequency and the microwaves.
Hmm.
Yeah, these are the non-native ones, and and I told you about the native ones from coming from the sun directly.
Yeah. So radio frequency would be cell phone towers and like
Yeah,
primarily
so
what's yeah.
everything which we are using to wirelessly connect to things can be
Okay.
your cell phone, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi has two bands, 2.45 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, and now the 5G is coming up. So that's something altogether we should talk separately about.
All right.
And then apart from that, even as basic as think about the wireless keys we have. Okay, we you unlock the car with, that
Oh
works on
yeah.
RF. Yeah, so
Okay.
even the satellite dish connection, um anything like which is working wirelessly, it's being controlled by the RF. Yeah,
Sorry, the garden guy was here to water the pots in this room.
no worries.
All right. So then the question, right? So why are we talking about it? Of course, that the amount of EMFs in the amount of the non-native EMFs have increased in our environment and all of that, right? But
Yeah,
like I want to like bring people's attention to specifically how does it impact people's health, right? Like
sure.
what, like, of course a lot of people think we are absolutely woo to talk about EMF because if you can't see it, it can't hurt you, right? So
Right,
but you have been researching this, you've been reading and reading and really going deep into it. We've been asking you to teach this in the academy, but you keep telling us you don't know enough. But can you just highlight the actual impact on human health that's happening with this increased exposure to EMF?
sure. For that, we have to first look at what the science is saying right now. Okay, the
Hmm.
current science agrees that you know anything about the UV, which is your ionizing radiation. Okay, it comprises of the X-ray and the gamma rays. Okay, so they say that these ionizing radiation are the ones which are the only ones which have enough energy to create any damage in the body. Okay, and they say anything below the IR, which is the RF and the microwaves, they do
Hmm.
not have enough energy to cause any damage in the body. They
Hmm.
cannot cause any DNA strand breaks.
Hmm.
Now, this is true in a way that it does not have enough energy. But the problem is the people are stuck at this analogy that they do not have enough energy. These RF waves do not have enough energy in them. That's why they cannot cause the DNA damage. Okay, but the thing is they do not cause the damage in that way, in the sense that it does not directly create DNA damage. It causes the damage via another mechanism, okay, which was highlighted to us by Dr. Martin Paul. I think that guy should win a Nobel Prize already. I think around 2012-13, he's got a lot of papers out, and he had figured out how exactly these electromagnetic waves in the RF and microwave band are causing the damage. Okay. So what happens is there is a cell. Okay. We have trillions of cells in our body, and there is a cell membrane. Okay. And as soon as we are exposed to these non-native electromagnetic fields, okay, these cells they open up and there is an influx of calcium ions. Okay, it's gated in this. You have to imagine like this is closed. Okay, and as soon as there is any non-native EMF in your environment, and it interacts with this, it opens up, and this voltage gated calcium channel, it's called, it opens up, and then there's an influx of calcium ions inside at the speed of 1 lakh per second. Okay, so 1 lakh calcium ions are flowing inside the cell. Now, I mean, for a vague, this is not exactly right, this is not exactly how it works, but imagine this calcium. Okay, calcium is supposed to be in your bones and stuff, and this thing is going inside your cells, so it must be creating some kind of havoc. Okay, so now coming back to the topic. uh, there are more than 100 independent scientists, okay, who have done their own research, which was not funded by the industry, and they have figured out a uh, variety of impacts actually these EMF are causing, ranging from ADHD, to migraine, to a lot of metabolic issues. In fact, like the recent, I was recently reading about it, and I figured, like, blue light, which is also a part of non-native EMF. I'm not talking about the blue light coming from the sun. I'm talking about the artificial sources. Blue light independently, without any food, can cause insulin resistance in human beings. Okay, so that's really really big, and a lot of people are. I mean, I will say 1 to 2% people who are actually studying this are actually looking into this. Not many. So if something has can cause insulin resistance, which we know that is at the root. of all metabolic diseases.
The precursor to like diabetes is one of them. Like people just think
Yeah,
insulin and diabetes, but there are so
yeah,
many metabolic implications of insulin resistance building up in the body.
absolutely. So if it can cause that, I can only imagine what else is happening inside us. So yeah, like the damage is really happening. You just have to go and look at the studies. I think Dr. Markula has a beautiful book. It's called I have it here. It's called EMF. Okay, he has laid down beautifully how it's impacting what is actually happening, and what are the scientists, where they have put out their research, and why no one is listening to them. Yeah, that's very important because
Rashmi, also, do you want to talk about like at the mitochondrial level, like where
yeah,
energy production is happening, right? Like I know you've been writing a lot about ATP and all of that, and how,
yeah.
like if there's artificial blue light or
Mhm.
like this non-native EMF, basically the entire range of them, how that impacts mitochondrial health and actually like just our ability to produce energy. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I'll just brush it up a little bit. So mitochondria. Okay. See, I think the way current science looks at mitochondria is totally different from how the cutting edge scientists are looking at it. Uh, in the sense that what they have figured out, there is a scientist called his name is Dr. Doug Wallace. Okay, he has been studying mitochondrial mitochondrial genome for last 40 years. Okay, and he has figured out that mitochondrial heteroplasmy rate, which is basically how mutated your mitochondria is, that if your levels of mitochondrial heteroplasmy is greater than 70%, that's where the diseases start happening. So you have to understand all the research that is being done in the last that has been done in the last 100 years has happened in the nuclear genome. Okay, the nuclear DNA, majority of the funding goes towards that. From what I have studied, 98% of the funding goes into studying the nuclear genome. Okay, and only 2% is spent on the mitochondrial DNA and the genome around it. Okay, so this guy has been researching around it, and he's got beautiful YouTube videos. You guys should really look it up. Dr. Doug Wallace, DougWallace, and so this guy says, okay, that mitochondria are basically your sixth sense. Okay, they 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 can sense these electromagnetic fields around you, because see, these electromagnetic fields are invisible. You cannot see them. You cannot sense them. You cannot feel them in any way, but your mitochondria really can. Okay, and when there is an influx, you are constantly surrounded by these non-native electromagnetic fields. The topology, okay, we are going a little deep here. So the topology is the science.
Yes, okay, I really want this to be a slightly geeky kind of a thing
Okay,
because this information is for someone who's really considering their health seriously, right? This is not
sure,
someone who's like, Madam Diet De Do kind of a thing. So let's like share the knowledge that you have
sure,
accumulated and gathered for so long.
sure, I'll go for it. So the topology is basically the science of studying shape and size of things. Okay. So this was not a big deal until 2016 and 17, but in 2017 the Nobel Prize was given for quantum topology, where in the classical physics world it does not matter the change in shape and size and shape of things, but when things go quantum, okay, like see, because when we are talking about mitochondria, it's extreme low level stuff, right? Like we have trillions of cells, and each cell has like couple of thousand mitochondria. Okay, so we are going really, really down. So these things, okay, these things when they are around non-native EMF, they change. Their topology changes. Okay, their shape and size changes. Okay, and that has a major impact on the functioning, I will say, the way it can produce energy. Okay, because we know that mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell,
Yeah, that's
and
like in every eighth standard biology class. It's eighth,
yeah,
seventh. I don't remember eighth standard. I think.
absolutely. Okay, so I'll really go deep here. Okay, so in the mitochondria there are five respiratory proteins. Okay, they are called cytochrome 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and they are at some distance from each other. Okay, so when the shape changes, okay, when the shape of the mitochondria changes because of the topology change, because of the non-native field, it gets elongated. Okay, and the distance between these respiratory protein increases. Okay, and if you have seen my post, which you have not, I know you guys have not seen. So see, life fundamentally works on electrons. Okay, the flow of electrons in the body. All the food gets divided at its core uh, into electrons, and it's passed through the electron transport chain
That's what
before
we
the.
also teach in the nutritional biochemistry part
Yes,
of the academy, right?
absolutely.
Whether it's protein digestion, whether it's carbohydrate metabolism, or whether it's fat, like even ketogenesis, in the end, it's really about ATP production, right? Through that.
Yes, no, there is no protein transport chain. There is no carbohydrate or lipid transport chain. It's the electron transport chain, which is the last step before the production of, before it goes to
That
the
ATP
ATP
is
there.
that molecule of energy, and it's that ETC that really produces energy.
Absolutely. So food fundamentally is, converted down to the electron there. So these cytochromes, okay, cytochrome 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I spoke about, they have they are at fixed distance from each other. Okay, at few not nanometers, angstroms. Okay, so what happens is when the size changes, okay, of this mitochondria here, they they become distant from each other. Okay, and Dr. Doug Wallace, and there is this another guy called Nick Lane. He has written a couple of books. Is very famous. One of the books name is Power, Sex, and Suicide: The Story of Mitochondria.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, okay, that's a interesting
really,
title.
it is. It is. So that guy says that everyone in the mitochondrial genome world, they have come to this conclusion in last couple of years. Okay, when you increase the distance between these cytochromes, okay, so that the electron cannot pass from one cytochrome to the another. Okay, when the distance increases, the electron tunneling, okay, the quantum electron tunneling from one cytochrome to another decreases because there is an increased distance. Okay, and with every angstrom increase in the distance between these two respiratory proteins, the mitochondrial heteroplasmy rate increases by to the power of 10.
Because basically, ज़्यादा मेहनत करनी पड़ रही है just to
Zyada
move.
mehnat, yeah. It's like I love giving this analogy that we used to play this game when we were kids, Mario. So Mario has to jump. There is
We
some.
didn't have Mario in our lives until we were teenagers.
Oh,
So not everyone was a kid when Mario
I'm
came.
talking about the millennials and the Gen Zs. I'm guessing even Gen Zs have not played that. So you have to jump. If you don't jump enough, you will fall down and you will get lost. This is exactly what
हाँ,
happens. The electrons, they try to jump from one cytochrome to another one, and because they are not able to make that jump because the distance is too big, they disappear
they
in the
get
body,
lost basically.
and the free radicals are produced. So that's where the problem originates, and this is what we have to stop. That's why it's very, very important to take care of your mitochondria. Mitochondrial health should be a top priority for everyone. Y- yeah, I mean, that's at the root of, I believe, that's my personal opinion, and from the research I'm doing, that's that's where it lies. So you got to do everything you can to take care of your mitochondria. Number one thing is to first know about all these electromagnetic fields we are surrounded by.
All right. So
Yeah.
basically, the level of EMFs in our environment has gone up dramatically
Yeah.
since 2000 itself. So
Mhm.
we are exposed to far more non-native EMFs, and then they have a direct impact on health, right? From something as basic as insulin resistance to even like I think some article I read somewhere. It was classified as a class 2 carcinogen. Okay, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Shit, I can't remember.
EMF, yes, it's class 2B carcinogen.
Yeah, it is right. It's classified as a class 2B carcinogen.
Yeah, so it's class 2B carcinogen is like, yeah, it can cause something. Okay, we are not very sure. It's kind of like that. It's like
Okay.
not 100%. That's what they have classified it. That we are not
So
100% sure, but yeah, it may. It may.
So it can do that. It can actually, and then because I'm working with so many people around their mental health, I was more curious to understand the impact these have on mental health. And I actually found lots of articles that have shown studies, right? Like that are
Hmm.
proving that the exposure to, I think I'll just screen share and show one of them because
Okay.
it's insane, right? And like, see the number of people who sleep with their cell phones next to their head because you're just scrolling on Insta, or you're just watching something on Netflix, and you're scrolling, you start feeling sleepy, you just keep your phone aside and you fall asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, how EMF exposure may cause depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues, right? So I mean, I can put this article up in the show notes after our live is done.
Hmm.
But look at this, the number of studies. This followed 103 electricians, 1997 studies followed 150 adults, a cohort study of 139, like that's 1,39,000 workers, right? So these electricians with the highest exposure were experiencing feelings of depression, psychosis, obsessive compulsive behavior.
Yeah.
These adults living near high voltage transmission lines, which are like, those big transformer lines, they had symptoms of psychological distress. And then this, like the one with 1,39,000 workers, they were at increased risk of committing suicide, right? So there are a
Absolutely.
lot of, like a truckload of studies that have been like associating and seeing whether there's a link between EMF and brain health, mental health, because it can, so this thing that you spoke of, the voltage gated calcium channels, right? And it can, while it is working on different types of cells, it's also working on your brain and the release of neurotransmitters and the release of hormones, and your nervous system itself
Yeah.
is.
Especially, see, Mugdha, people have to realize that where is your mitochondria colony the highest? It's in your heart and your brain. Okay, so
What
those are,
about the nervous system, Rusty? Because, like, see, what I'm learning and I'm like working with people is
yeah,
most people, whatever mental health issues they have, it's because their nervous system got highly dysregulated, mostly in childhood because trauma, and they're just living
right,
like repeated
right,
patterns, right? And then the nervous system is just about it. Like, if you look at how the nervous system works, it's literally sending signals.
absolutely,
Like
yeah,
it's transmitting electronic signals, electrical signals, not
yeah,
electronic,
yeah,
through the entire system. Through your, like, your nerve cell is capable of receiving an electrical transmission and passing it on.
yeah.
So
So,
while you're speaking of the heart and the brain, I'm
mhm.
sure like the entire nervous system dysregulation also could be happening because of EMS, right?
Absolutely, because see, we know from the work of Dr. Robert O. Becker in the 1960s, okay, great scientist. He was the first one to figure out that we are electrical beings. And so, what he did was, he was an orthopedician. Uh, in the 1960s, he did couple of experiments on salamanders. Okay, he cut their limbs. Okay, and then he gave them very low amount of electrical fields, okay, electrical stimulus, and then he saw that their limbs were regenerating, okay, and then he was really blown away by that because we have been told all our lives that we are chemical, and you know how is this even happening? And then he continued studying, he built his lab around it, and eventually came to the conclusion that all these electromagnetic fields, especially the electric ones, uh, the electricity, because the world was getting surrounded by the high voltage power lines, uh, you know and he said, okay, this is really bad for the society overall because it is going to cause a lot of trouble. So all his fundings and everything was taken away, and that guy lived in exile for like 20-30 years, and he died in 2010. So
Wow.
he has written a beautiful book. It's called The Body Electric, and he also figured out that the bone we have, it's a semiconductor. Okay, not a lot of people know this.
Yeah, I remember you telling me, and I was talking to you about this in context of the somatic release, the massage
Yeah,
techniques
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that I work with, right?
Absolutely. So it's really crazy. Like, there are a lot of quantum processes happening inside the body, and it's all mediated by the light, or we can say the EMF we have around us. So the EMF we are supposed to be exposed to is the native one, which is the natural one, which comes from the sun, which is your infrared and ultraviolet. Apart from the visible, everyone is exposed to visible. Yeah. So that's
So
extremely
yeah, I
important.
think we've discussed about the impact of health, and like just before we move on to the next
Hmm.
like I want to also talk about solutions, and I don't want to like freak people out because fear is like the worst frequency you want to leave someone in. But I think it also the blood-brain barrier also becomes a little more permeable in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
presence of EMF, and then that allows toxins and viruses and all of these to cross over and actually impact the
true.
brain also.
And this research was done in 1950s to 70s around somewhere. That the EMF has the power to pass the blood-brain barrier, and you know people don't look at it as a connection when they're thinking of leaky gut, because literally
Mm-hmm.
like EMF has the power of breaking in there. So that might be a case to make.
Yeah, because of course, we have the experimental jab that was given to people 2 years for the
Yeah,
last 1.5 years. So that is, of course, a big variable in terms of why people are experiencing so many health issues. Like the kind of symptoms come up that people are narrating in when I'm doing a consult, right? And just a cluster of mystery symptoms, and then so many people are struggling with poor gut health, which they didn't have before, right? So I
yeah,
definitely think, of course, the entire lockdowns and the social isolation and then eating all the junk food, the convenience of ordering in, all of that was a contributor of the experimental jabs, which were
true.
supposed to cure that COVID thing. I'm sure that's a variable, but I think like this additional exposure to constant non-native EMFs,
Yeah.
like definitely a contributor, because I mean this might be very very anecdotal, like one person reference, but I just came back from Goa yesterday, right?
Hmm.
And I've been having gut issues, and Johan and I've been like, we did a lot of the advanced tests, and we figured out like, okay, there are like really chronic pathogenic infections in my gut, and it's really bad for me when I'm here in Pune because there's like a huge cell phone tower right in front of my house. I'll see if I can
Yeah.
put that video up here. But I was in Goa and I was really eating not the best of food because this was like restaurant food, buffet, done for like a group of 200 people, right? So it was not
Hmm.
really like what I eat normally.
Hmm.
Despite that, like I was eating gluten and sugar and dairy and everything, right? But no gut issues at all, nothing, no bloating, no pain, no aches. And that was by the beach, very very low EMF zone, and I could
Yeah.
like recharge my body with the sand and the ocean water and the sun itself.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I felt different, and I entered the city yesterday evening. As I came down, touched down at the airport, and then we started, and like from that Lohega, as we started coming more into the city, right, like the more
Hmm.
populated areas, I could feel like this sense of dullness, like
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
like I was just like very like, and I was coming back to office. I love this place, right? So in my heart, I was really enthusiastic and excited about coming here, but my body and my brain was feeling very, very meh. Okay, like that's the only way I can describe it. I was like, okay, this is really definitely one of the things that's impacting my health, and I need to figure out a solution for this.
Definitely.
So it's happening. If you're conscious, if you're aware, if you're tracking, you'll start noticing how different you feel when you're in low EMF zones versus how you feel when you're in like typical urban environments. But I think let's actually now move on to just talking about some solutions.
Sure.
Yeah, and I actually see somebody else asked me this, that like I've been living in the same place for a few years, and it's okay. Now I'm okay. Why should I worry about EMF? So
Yeah.
living in the city.
Hmm.
Uh, like living with cell phone towers around you, does it really impact your health, or
Yeah,
forget it?
I think it does, because see, the power density of these antennas, of these towers, is extremely high, and the more the number of towers you have around you, okay, the more the problem is going to be. So if you are living in a city, I'm pretty sure like you will have a tower or two in 100 200 meters of your vicinity, at least, like dense areas. So it does have an impact also, like the population density you are around. If you're living in a multi-story apartment, so the number of people using devices, because see, no one is using one device these days. Everyone's got like 10 electronics in their house, which is
Yeah,
constantly connected to the Wi-Fi, got Bluetooth and all the stuff. So there are multiple devices, and each of them, they club, and there, now we have like so many devices. So that's where the problem is. But so if you see that you are having some issues, uh, your energy levels are going down, you're not feeling as great as you used to, maybe you should look out for the new towers which are being built around you, or maybe
I'm just
they are
looking for
getting
that video
topped
on
up.
my phone. Uh, while you're answering that question, so
Yeah,
if I'm looking distracted, it's because I'm
sure,
looking for
sure,
that
no
video
problem. So
I
now
shot
we
about.
have 5G also. So the thing with 5G is that these wireless waves, they cannot travel very far, so they need to build a lot of towers around you, okay, at very close distance, because they cannot travel, these waves cannot travel very far. So now you will see, a lot of new towers popping up. Also, right now, Airtel and all these companies, they are just upgrading their existing infrastructure. Geo is coming up with their new towers, but eventually everyone is going to switch to, having their individual tower, which is equipped with 5G technology, and they are going to be everywhere. The government has allowed these companies, these telecom companies, to put up the tower anywhere they want to. They do not have to take permission from the government anymore. They just have to, speak to the person, like, it's your building. Can I just put up a tower and give you 5 lakh rupees? That's all. No,
Oh, this is
nothing else. They do
wow.
not have to take any permission from anyone else. Just the person there and pay them money. Done. It's going to come up on the, traffic poles, manhole covers, uh,
Seriously?
yeah, the government buildings. It's everywhere. Like it was there in the Times of India news article that they are, because the distance is not, these waves cannot travel very far, so they have to use all these things to utilize as a 5G tower. Yeah.
All right. So the next question, one is like, how do you check how much exposure are you experiencing in your own home or like your place of work, like where you're spending the most amount of time? Actually, so this is another question that I had. I forgot to ask Johan and you also both. So I'm awake for like 16 hours and I'm in office or
Mhm.
I'm in the
Yeah.
gym or I'm walking around, right? And in
Yeah.
home, I'm mostly there in the evenings and like I'm sleeping there. So my home time actually is lesser than the time I spend outdoors, but I'm sleeping when I'm at home. And
Yeah.
like I'll show, I mean, for the people who are watching this for the first time, I'll actually show a video of how much exposure is there in my house. But does the time matter or does the mode your body, like, is sleep a worse time to get exposed to EMFs? Or how, like, how would we then
Sure.
decide what, yeah,
I think if you are exposed even during the sleep, that's the worst. Okay.
worst is it?
Because the body, see, when does the body regenerate? Like, it's actually detoxifying when it is sleeping. Okay, all the
Right,
regeneration programs are working when you're sleeping. So that's the
right.
best time if you can switch off your Wi-Fi and all type of EMF exposure. There are there are extremely low frequencies of electromagnetic fields, which are individually electric fields or magnetic fields. There is dirty electricity, there is radio frequency, there is all this artificial light, there is flickering. All these things come under the non-native EMF. So you have to
Hmm.
understand, you have to completely, like, get away from all of these things. So how can you do that? First is to put your phone in the airplane while you're sleeping. That's extremely important. Okay, and put it at a distance, because you don't know what is happening. If you do not have a device with you, if you do not have a EMF meter, then this is the best way. Like, you don't want to check anything, and because these things are expensive also. It's not that,
Hmm.
like, you can get it under $1,000. It costs like
Hmm.
upwards of 15,000 rupees. So you put your phone on airplane and put it at a distance. Second thing is, reduce, I mean, always switch off whatever electronic which is not in use. See, there is something called dirty electricity, which ramps up as you increase the number of devices which are connected to the power grid in your home. Okay,
Okay.
so you got to switch off, uh, not just switch off, remove the plug also, like, from there. Switch it off and remove the wiring from the wall to reduce the dirty electricity load. So I don't want to do all that. So that's why I just turn down the MCB directly from the main circuit board and just open my window and sleep. Yeah, of course, there's few mosquitoes coming in and all that, but that's, I can take care of that. I'll just, cover myself up with the.
So basically, sleep is when you should like make sure that the environment is as EMF free as possible, right?
I will
Now,
say should be throughout if someone is like really sensitive, but sleep at least. Yeah,
at least.
Yeah.
And what is the permissible or tolerable amount of EMFs that you should be exposed to through the day?
Okay. So the studies, okay, whatever the ICE, uh, the telecom companies, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, and at the major level, the US level, if you see, there are some regulation authorities there, okay, and they have whatever the amount they have set up for this, like, you know, after this only the damage is happening. That's not true. Actually, these independent researchers I was talking about, which you can find in that book EMF by Dr. Markula, you will see that the damage starts happening at frequencies which are 1,000 times less than what the current standard is. So are you imagining, like, if it is, if they say it is at, if it, the damage is happening at 1,000, then the damage is already starting at 1 milliampere, or like, if it depends, like which electromagnetic field are we talking about?
So
Like that.
let's assume we are talking about radio frequencies, which is like the cell phone towers, which is what people are exposed to. And you had told me it should not be above 0.02 or something like that. Am
Yes,
I right with?
it gets very specific, like, individualistic. So we'll have to have the meter in front of us, or else like people will get really confused. But the best way is to, like, just minimize all electronic use. That's the best. Like, if you do not want to worry about, checking and all that, just reduce the number of electronics you use throughout. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi should be off. Use Ethernet. Use the wired headphones. Do not use wireless. Turn on blue light blocking software on your laptop, on your phone, at least in the night. I will tell you to put it all throughout the day also, but start by using it in the
Yeah,
night at least.
we go step by step into solutions, but
Okay.
I managed to download that video, so I just want to quickly show it on
Okay.
screen.
Sure. Sure.
For people who are living in like areas where you have a tower right outside your home, which is what was there outside my
Yeah.
apartment also. Okay, check this. So my
Mhm.
absolutely lovely friend and our academy student Kenny don't like lent his tri-field EMF meter, and I was testing it, right? So this where you're seeing is like the corner of my kitchen, which is the furthest away from that tower, and then I walk in. I mean, I walk out and I go towards, and I don't know if you can hear that, but that machine is going crazy,
It
screaming,
is.
right? So the ideal exposure should be below zero point 0.02, like that is the max a body should be exposed to, and I am at like I don't know how many times of that,
Yeah.
and the meter is screaming for its life, like yeah, get me out of here. Yeah, I was speaking for the meter, but that's how high the EMF exposure was for me.
Yeah.
Which actually, then looking at what's happening with my health, how messed up it is, it absolutely kind of makes sense. And then the other thing I want to show, so this I was not surprised that okay, there could be high EMF in my area. People often tell us, people tell you also, no, but bro, where is that EMF? I can't see it, right? Like people say, like if
Yeah.
you can't see it, it's not real. Like people
Yeah.
can't believe that something like this could be impacting the body.
Yeah.
I want to show people this other thing. This is like the scarier part of it. You know that. So let me just go back and share my screen. After this, I called myself the best EMF shield of all time. Where did that go? Okay. Give me 1 minute until I find how to share my screen again. But yeah, so for people who believe that EMFs don't do anything, or for people who believe that there is no such thing as human sensitivity to EMF, let me see if I can share my screen. For some reason, I can't screen that video.
Oops. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah, but maybe I won't give up. Wait. Okay, I found another way to do this. I'm adding this, and
You know
you know
that
that
like
like
the
the
fact
fact
that
that
this is
this is
like
like
EMF
EMF.
radiation zone is not as scary.
as what happens next. Okay, so I'm pointing this thing directly at the EMF tower and this machine is going nuts. Now I turn around and I point it, I'm still pointing it at the tower, but my body is in the way. Okay, so this is now pointing at my body, it's still in the same location. Look at what's happening. My body is blocking the EMF, which means the fucking EMF is going into my body. But yeah, that's the thing I wanted to highlight, that for people who believe that nothing, like the body can't, like, what is this? How can the body absorb EMF?
Because
That's
it's literally passing through the body. It's very hard for people to understand, okay, there is something like that happening. Because, see, people do not understand that the world we are living in, you can only see 1% of it, okay? That's the visible part of it. The rest of it, you cannot see it. These are the rest of the things. The visible is the only one you can see. These RF, these X-rays, and all that you cannot see. See, if I tell someone to, stand in front of the X-ray for 2 3 hours, they will not stand. You know why? Because they already know, okay, it's bad. Zyada exposure hoga, so it's not good. But the same thing is happening on the lower end of the spectrum. But it's just that the time perception is high. It takes quite some time for the damage to show up.
all right. So we have quite a few questions in the chat. I think we'll take those questions and then we'll give quick solutions
Okay.
that people can apply after like just watching us. So this one is Rusty, can brain fog happen due to EMF? I think we addressed that, but do you want to quickly answer?
Yeah, sure. Like definitely the brain fog. I think majority of the brain fog is happening because of the electromagnetic exposure you are around. Migraine. Since I told you already, right? Like there has been a lot of research on the ADHD and the migraine. It's closely connected there. And if you think like you are going somewhere, and then if you see that the same place every day you are going, and then you are having brain fog, it might have to do something with the EMF. So please look into it.
So to add on to that, na Rusty, if you remember, like I've been experiencing a lot of like general bouts of low moods and like
Yeah.
depression. And Johan had laughed and said, "हर 2 महीने में तेरे को होते रहता है, वो build
Ah,
up होके क्या चल
yeah.
रहा है," kind of thing, right? And I realized that like it was mostly after moving into this house that it really got bad. Now I associated all of this with what happened like last year, whatever the trauma that I experienced, and I thought like everything I'm feeling is because of this.
Mhm.
But I've seen like when I'm not in the same place in front of the tower where the meter was screaming like a banshee,
Mhm.
uh, I don't feel like that. I really don't, right? Like I don't feel like that when I'm in office also. It's only like when I sleep and when I wake up that sometimes my mood is really bad, and like it's usually on days I've forgotten to close the door, which is there as a barrier between the tower and my bedroom. But it's definitely, and like going a little woo and away from like scientific data and papers. No, there was actually a paper. Remember, you had shared that when Mike was doing breath work, we'd seen that
Yeah.
paper in Goa, and how they were trying to see at which particular frequency could an overhead power line actually put in thoughts into a sleeping
Yeah.
human's consciousness.
Actually, that was the one which actually got me awakened into this. I was like, what? This is possible?
Do you have access to that paper? I would love to put a link of that paper in the show
Sure,
notes,
sure.
but
Yeah, I can show it to you guys, like in the notes. But so that paper basically said, if they can control the human behavior using the AC power line, okay, the alternating current, which is the power current, like which is the electric which on which the electric grid works on. They can use that in your house to change your behavior. So that's crazy. Actually, I put out one tweet yesterday night,
hmm.
by Dr. Joes, I think. So that guy was the scientist in 1960s. He had figured out, how he could, bring about change of brain wave states, using different types of electromagnetic fields. So it is crazy. I mean, I have zero doubt that they are already using all this stuff.
No, no, I have experienced intrusive thoughts that are not my own.
Uh-huh.
And
Wow.
vivid scenarios that never happened, and then I had to check with another person that like, and in like regular world someone will say, oh, you're just being gaslit, and like maybe it happened, but it didn't. Like I trust the person whom I asked, and then like
That's the thing about these things. Like, if you go out talking about it, and then people are like, "What? This is some woo-woo stuff." Please.
yeah. All right. We have a question from Ranodi, but I'll take that like in the end because he's asking about solutions.
Yeah.
This is Varun saying एंटेला के बगल में वरुण नहीं एंटेला के बगल में नहीं लगाएंगे चलो दैट इज लाइक आर फार राइट कॉन्स्पिरेसी स्टफ उसके लिए अलग से विल हैव अ कॉल ऑन व्हाट वी कैन डू अराउंड एंटेला बट आई एम लीविंग दैट क्वेश्चन आउट Saroj is saying excellent topics gives valuable info. Is
That's
that your
my
mom?
mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Which mom in this world has told that, oh no, you don't know, like my child is like the worst. So
Thank you,
I think
mom.
you
Love
just
you.
come and say, hi, my name is Rusty. Your mom would be like, excellent topic gives valuable information. All right. Rusty, you should write a poem and put poems on. I'm sure your mom would say the same thing. All right. Here's a question from Avinash. What are the other sources of non-native EMFs? We briefly touched upon that, but do you want to
Yeah.
add?
Sure. I'll cover up again a little bit. So we majorly spoke about the radio frequencies and the microwave, but apart from that, there is dirty electricity. There is, extremely low frequency ones. Maxwell law says that wherever there is an electric field, there will be a magnetic field. Okay, so if there is an electric line in your house, there is a magnetic field too, and that's one reason why is power down the circuit in the house, because the person living below me, okay, that guy won't be switching off anything, okay, will be actually using double the devices. So that electricity is actually impacting my sleep, okay, because it is creating magnetic field, and our body works on, a certain magnetic field which is in resonance with the nature. The Schumann resonance, it is around 7.83 hertz. And so there is sort of like an overlap, and body gets confused. To give you an example, body gets confused and it desyncs. So yeah,
All right.
that's one major one. Yeah.
And then we have, is this your dad?
No, no, no. That's my
No.
mama probably. I guess.
Okay. Mom, mama. Okay, your family is on your side. We get it.
Shit.
All right. Okay, going to this question from Ranodeep. How can we EMF proof our home and will doing so disrupt cellular connectivity?
Okay. Yeah, of course. Like the best way is to not go in the forest and live. But if you want to do it for your home, I think simple solutions. Okay. I tell people two things. Okay. You don't have to do like crazy stuff to safeguard yourself from these EMF. You just have to, first thing is maximize the distance from the source. Okay, that's extremely important. So the inverse square law, it tells us that if you increase the distance from the source, the impact which it is creating on your body, the negative impact, it goes down multifolds. Okay, so even like a couple of meters or centimeters from the phone when you are using it, okay. So you can't do it like this. So I prefer using it on the speaker, or using it with the headphone. But I'd say like even the speaker is better than using a wired headphone, because like the distance increases and there is no connection, direct connection here. So that is one way. And if you want to go about your house like completely shielded from the towers and everything, there are different types of EMF shielding paints which are available, but again they have their own issues which you have to look into before you can go about getting that paint. See, they are expensive, and they might contain those toxic metals, which
Hmm.
you generally don't want to be exposed to. And then apart from that, Johan actually had shared one recently, the canopy bed by Dr. Marcola.
Dr. Makolana.
So I think that's a great alternative. Again, these things are very expensive, so I will give cheaper alternatives. Switch off the electricity in your house when you're sleeping. See the fridge, whatever is there in the fridge, apart from the ice cubes, everything else will be all right. Okay, so because you
तो
are not
whiskey के
going, I'll get new ice cubes the next day, so that's
okay.
not a problem. Yeah. So, so
That was
apart
a joke, Rusty's family, if you're watching.
see,
No, I actually wanted to ask you another question. A lot of people, even in our team, people are using AirPods, right? They're
yeah,
called AirPods, those things that you plug into
yes,
your ears
yes,
with Bluetooth.
AirPods by Apple.
Um, what is your perspective on them? Because I definitely think it's not a good idea to plug in something
Yeah,
that's like
yeah.
your brain is sitting between those two ears, right? So
Absolutely. So I think it's major problem because you are directly connecting that wireless radiation to your head. So it's not just the Bluetooth which is getting connected. Now that becomes an antenna for your phone also. Okay, sort of think of it like this. So your phone is already an antenna which is connecting to the tower. Okay. So now because this thing is wirelessly connected to your phone, now it is sort of latching on those frequencies which is connecting to the tower, so your brain is directly getting zapped. It's as bad as using your phone right next to your ear. But the problem here is you are using it constantly, you are not even plugging it out. A lot of people don't, they enjoy putting it in, and they sound amazing, trust me. Like, I have used them in the past, they are brilliant piece of technology, but
they
biologic
destroy.
the biological toll it is having on your body, it's immense because it's right next to your brain. You have to understand that. And I can't even fathom people giving technology to their kids because the brain is developing, like, first 5 years the brain is developing. That's where the majority of the brain development happens. And people give their kids the phone and everything without even putting the blue blocker on, and without even putting it on the airplane. Like, how is that working out for you? Because it won't work out very nicely in the long term. Oh, at least don't give it to the kids, people.
Yeah. All right. So Rusty's take on AirPods are destroying your
don't
brain.
don't do that.
So,
Extremely.
in terms of devices, use wired as much as possible.
Yes.
Even with Wi-Fi, it would be good to kind of, instead of Wi-Fi, use LAN. In fact, that's one of
Yeah.
the things that we're going to do next for office, right? Like switch
Yes.
from Wi-Fi and just make it as much LAN as possible.
Yeah.
And personally, at home, if you just want to like reduce the in-house radiation, turn off the routers, switch off your phone, put it in airplane, and
All
all the
devices
electronic
from the wall. Yeah.
plug. If you are living in a flat or a place where you have huge towers around you, my first piece of advice would be to move out. That's what I'm going
Absolutely.
to. I
I'm
mean,
not
I'm actually.
not suggesting them anything else. Move out. That's the only
Ha, but
option.
like see, sometimes people have long leases or like there aren't like even
Yeah.
for people who are like bachelors and all that, it's very hard to sometimes get a place, right? So if that's happening and you really want to continue to live there because moving out is like too difficult in terms of energy and time and
Yeah.
everything, then the kind of canopy that Dr. Mercola is selling, right? That's brilliant because like you can sleep. It's like inside a
Yeah.
tent and you're
Mhm.
protected from
So
EMF
people
in
can
that most
research about the Faraday cages. Uh, so that will
yeah.
be really good.
Yeah, but Faraday cages, I don't think will work against 5G. That's what I had read somewhere.
Yeah, so it's completely different. Even the meters are not out complete, like the proper ones,
Yeah,
and the ones which are out are very expensive. So 5G is like the Dunning-Kruger effect for human biology,
I
as I would
know.
like to say.
All right, so that's for like home solutions. In terms of your phone, yeah, you had told me this that like if you're in a low network area,
Yeah,
it's actually worse for you because your phone's really trying hard to kind of pick up on a network, right? So what do
yeah.
you do then?
So I'll tell you what I do. Usually, when I'm driving around, I like listening to the podcast or music. So
Hmm.
previously, I used to connect my phone via Bluetooth and listen to the music or the podcast. But what I do now is I download it on my phone, and I put my phone on airplane and connect it to the aux. Okay, and I keep
Hmm.
my car Bluetooth completely off.
Hmm.
And Yeah, I mean, you were asking something else. I'm sorry, I moved.
Yeah, yes, I was asking that only. What does one do in that scenario? And the so the other thing, right? Like using nature to kind of counter the impact. See, we can't stop people. Like ideally, I would have wanted to just like use something to destroy the tower in front of my house
Yeah,
and like live there peacefully. But I
yeah,
can't do that. It would be illegal. I would be in jail.
yeah,
So, so tips on how we could use the natural resources of this planet
yeah,
to mitigate the impact of
yeah,
these non-native EMFs, right?
yeah.
So, what can one do?
So a simple analogy people can look into is, think about this, like, all these non-native EMFs are basically stealing electrons from you. Okay.
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
would want to get as much electron as possible through your environment. So what can you do about it? You can do grounding in open areas, not around electric fields or towers. Don't do it. Go near a mountain or something. Beaches are the best. If you can ground in a beach, like, near the edge of the beach where there is water, put your legs, dip your legs or the whole body, swim in the sea. That's the best because
Mm.
your whole body is getting the electrons. Apart from that, you got to eat nutritious food, okay,
Mm.
which directly comes from the nature, okay, because as I'd put up a post yesterday, like, everything on this planet is basically uh, and it's produced by the electromagnetic barcode coming from the sunlight. It's everything's got that on this planet. So something which is not directly influenced by the sun, don't eat that, which basically is all the artificial food, okay.
Right.
And get as much sun as possible. So I'm not suggesting you to, if you have never gone out in the sun, in the afternoon sun, don't do that. Don't just go out in the afternoon sun. Build your solar callus. Get the morning sun, get the evening sun, do it for like a month, and then slowly start getting the afternoon sun, because like it's very harsh for the body, because unless like you have built your resilience against the sun also wants you to absorb all that energy, but for that you have to build your solar callus, and that is by getting the morning IR and getting the evening IR. Do it for a couple of weeks and then you start going in the afternoon sun. So
So
these are
sun
like,
exposure, first, like at temperatures and intensity that you can easily tolerate, which is morning and evening,
yeah,
and then over time you should be able to even like actually get your electrons from sun
yeah,
even in the daytime if it's not too harsh for you. That's but
yeah,
bare minimum is morning and evening,
yeah,
and then in nature grounding itself, right? Like from
yeah.
Earth, you kind of are able to
Mhm.
discharge and also get. You had said something interesting about lightning. How post lightning there's like a
Yeah,
you could harvest electrons from the ground, right?
absolutely. So that's the best time if you want to ground inside a city. As So what happens is, see, the Earth is always getting electrocuted by the lightning, okay, coming from the ionosphere, okay. There are, and it is a fact, okay. There are 100 lightnings happening every second on this planet. That is how the Earth is actually connected to the ionosphere, okay. So those electrons are getting transferred from the ionosphere to the Earth, and because there will be a lot of free electrons available in that vicinity, so best time to do that is right after the lightning, okay. And the fourth one, okay, apart from the sun, the grounding, the food, the fourth one is getting into cold water, or anything, like, even splashing your face with cold, because what ultimately cold does is, as we were previously talking about that mitochondrial heteroplasmy.
Mm-hmm.
So cold, it brings those respiratory proteins together. So cold is really really good. So that's why, like, cold's got a lot of benefits. Everyone keeps talking about it. There is like Wim Hof, I think, is the major one who's into cold. So cold is really good. Taking a shower in the cold water, that's really good. Um yeah. So exposing yourself to cold, basically. Then apart
So,
from that,
sun exposure,
mhm,
grounding, nutritious food, cold water exposure.
yeah,
Have you, in your research, come across how breathwork could actually help with this? Because, see, what breathwork is doing is it's bringing in more oxygen. It's
yeah.
actually, again, powering up your mitochondria, helping with the entire electron. Like, could that be also a cover? I just had this thought because I
Uh,
came like 3 day event where breathwork was like the focus.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I have not, to be honest, but yeah,
hmm.
that should be something,
Seem like logical that it could actually improve
because
the
yeah,
yeah.
because it's an out of body experience, so I'm pretty sure there must be something happening there.
Yeah, out of body is for like people who, but I think even if you just stay in body and you're just doing like a 15-20 minute conscious breathwork practice, it is definitely changing cellular health. That much I know, but I'm just like
Probably it must
wondering
have
how.
to do something with, you are increasing the oxygen in the
Right,
body, and then that must be impacting in some way there.
right.
And
All right, I think it's time up. We've been
I
live for
think
the
the last
last.
one I would like to say, uh, like the movement, the more you move, there is something called
Yeah.
piezoelectric current, which the body generates when
Hmm.
there is movement inside the body. I mean, when there
Okay.
is movement by the body. So that is another way of
I think
doing.
that's why Kashish has zero impact of EMFs. He's like just moving all through the
Yeah,
day.
all day is moving, so no wonder. is
Yeah.
in good shape.
Yeah, that's an important point. I hadn't
Yeah.
considered that. Like how moving will kind of
Yeah,
move currents in your body.
absolutely.
Cool. I think we could talk about this like for 2 3 hours. Like the more we go
Yeah, I
into like
think
the mystical, right? Like now we just stuck to like the basics of like what is
yeah.
tangible and can be shown in research papers. But I'm sure there are a lot of metaphysical implications of this EMF.
I mean, there is a lot I would like to share
Promising.
probably in the future. Yeah, I
Yeah.
probably a masterclass will suffice.
Yeah. I'm
All right.
thinking like all of these people doing chakra meditation and they're like in front of towers, unke chakras will be opening up to EMFs. Anyway, with that last last note, bye bye for those of you who are watching this live. Let me just check if there are any unanswered questions in the chat. No, I think we kind of covered.
Yeah.
So good. I'm glad we did this,
Yes.
and we should talk more about this. All right.
Sure.
Bye bye.
Thank you guys. Bye bye. Take care. Have a great day.